So for the three of you, I'd like to share the first 3 lines of the Book of the Divine Mother. Maybe a little more than 3 lines. Canto 1 is called The Pursuit of the Unknowable. All is too little that the world can give. Its power and knowledge are the gifts of time, and cannot fill the spirit's sacred thirst. Although of one these forms of greatness are, and by its breath of grace our lives abide, although more near to us than nearness self, it is some utter truth of what we are. Hidden by its own works, it seemed far off, impenetrable, occult, voiceless, obscure. I think all of us, even the youngest of us here, have already experienced that all is too little that the world can give. Because the power of the world and the knowledge of the world are simply the gifts of time, but they cannot fill the spirit's sacred thirst. What can fill that spirit's sacred thirst? Yes?
Good question. To be connected to the divine.
Yes. Connected is a good word. It's the beginning. The uniting with the divine is perhaps near the final. No religion in the world says that we can unite with the divine. Christianity says not possible. We can be sons of the divine, they say, but we cannot unite with him. Muslims also agree with that. The Jewish religion agrees with that. It is only Sri Aurobindo and Mother who have said that we are divine. And that's our work. To realize, to become the divine. There's a few lines in Savitri that speak of this. And I'll try to bring them up. We are the divine because the divine is everything. And in the Life Divine, he tells us that the divine is even perversity, even negativity, even evil. But how can that be? Well, from the physical mind, it's impossible to understand this. Even from the higher mind, it's very, very difficult. From the illumined mind, we have a little bit of insight. From the intuitive mind, we have great insight. It's much wider insight. Still, it sees everything in duality. The overmind is the closest to it in these mental ranges. But even the overmind sees in duality. Good and bad, truth and falsehood, happiness and sorrow. We can go on and on and on with all the negatives. When we reach the supermind, only then everything is one. Everything is unified. Sri Aurobindo says this world has been created for bliss. Only for bliss. It's amazing. He speaks of it very often in Savitri. Joy is very fine, but it's not bliss. Ananda is bliss. And above the supermental, there are these planes of Sat, Chit, Ananda. When we reach the supermental, we'll see that the supermental pours everything from Sat, Chit, Ananda down into life, mind, and body. So you can say it's the bridge. It's a sevenfold path, sevenfold hierarchy. The top of the hierarchy, Satchitananda. The lowest of the hierarchy, life, mind, and body. And in between them is the supramental. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing because, well, let me read a little bit of.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, certainly.
Even one can experience this bliss occasionally. It is not a permanent thing, right? It's not a permanent thing. You know, people get into so many chores.
And it's only a touch of the bliss.
Yeah,
It's not the full bliss at all.
that's what bliss.
That we have yet to find.
So, what is Sri Aurobindo saying in Life Divine for permanently experiencing this bliss?
Well, he speaks of so many things. He speaks of, first of all, the importance of the quietness of the mind. Nothing can really happen, he says, in this yoga unless the mind is still. How do we still the mind? That's a big question, isn't it? I can share with you, I can share with you some of the things that I have learned from many people. From a Raja Yogi I studied with when I was in my late teens, to two yogis I met once in New York City, and they were true yogis. And they said, you see, the mind is like a radio with all the stations on at the same time. So what we have to do is we have to either allow them to pass through our mind without giving them any attention, or we have to stop them from coming in. Now, when Sri Aurobindo met Yogi Bhaskar Lely, Lely told him exactly this. And in 3 days, Sri Aurobindo had the silent mind. 3 days. I've been working at it quite a few years. Now, if you can see them coming into you, then you know they're not yours. They're trying to take possession of you, or they're trying to motivate you in some way. Now, many of them are Rajasic, many of them are, a few of them are Asuric, and we know the Asuric ones are the ones who create wars, who create great violence in the world. But there are some pisachas, and they are little beings that just like to play with us. Now, one way they play with us is very interesting. It is working on the physical mind. So you may have a song that you hear again and again and again, or a little part of a song. You know that in music, in rock music and in popular music, they have something called the hook. Anyone heard of the hook? No one has heard of the hook. Okay. Well, I had a restaurant in New York City, in Greenwich Village, at the height of the hippie period, and in that place, my restaurant was called the Tin Angel, and down below my restaurant was the place called the Bitter End. The Bitter End was a little nightclub where they did not serve any liquor. They only served sodas and drinks. And I used to see all the great comedians and musicians there. I would see Woody Allen. I would see Joan Baez, the great singers of the past, Neil Diamond. I saw him many times. And my partner, whose name was Fred Weintraub, used to say to Neil Diamond, "You have to get the hook. You have to get the hook." So the hook is a piece of melody that will go on and on in your mind. And it may be a nice song. And one day you're being quiet and suddenly that song comes. Well, where does it come? It comes into the physical mind and repeats itself ad infinitum. I think maybe some of you have heard this music. Think of something, a song that you listen to often. And in that song, there will be something that will catch you more than anything else. Huh? That's called the hook. That's the hook. It's a little melody or some slight melody, and it won't go out.
Can it be the chorus?
No,
No.
it's not the chorus. It's usually a melody, a small melody. Somewhere over the rainbow, bum, bum, bum. And then there'll be a little bit in that will be the hook. And you'll listen to it again and again. Now, how do you get it out of your mind? That's the real trick. Because the physical mind is very strong. It says, no, I'm going to have my way. And you have to break that connection with silence. The silence of the mind is the only way to break it. It's not easy. It takes a lot of strength. But you can break it. The great yogis always break it. You know that Vivekananda, who was such a great yogi, he could not get over anger. Anger stayed with him till he died. That's how powerful these forces are. And yet he was so vast. He actually came to Sri Aurobindo in the jail. And he told Sri Aurobindo for the first time about the supermind. He had that much. And yet Ramakrishna, when he would ask Ramakrishna something, Ramakrishna would just very gently put him down. Say, don't quite have it yet. He did achieve it, and I would say he was the most important person from the East to open up America. his talks in America are just extraordinary. They're so marvelous. You see, he was able to leap that chasm of religion and touch people at a deeper level. It's a very rare thing to do. Now I see on the internet constantly this Sadhguru. He's everywhere.
Yes.
And he debates a Jewish rabbi, he debates someone else, and what you get at the end of it? Not too much. Because within us, there is the psychic being. And we have only one major work in life, and that is to open the psychic being. The psychic being, of course, is behind the heart. Not the physical heart here, in the center of the chest, and behind the heart. So, how does one get to that psychic being? Well, as I said, the first thing Sri Aurobindo and Mother say was silence in the mind. And I've talked to people who have silenced their mind for years. And at first, they almost went crazy. There was nothing there. But if one is quiet enough, the force comes down and gives you something that you could never have with this physical mind. There is a peace, and that comes as a result of the silent mind. A peace that is so profound. Christ called it the peace that passeth all understanding. See, he had it. He had it fully. And that peace will bring the ananda. It can come with that peace. Now, our friend has asked me to talk more about my experiences with Mother. But I'd like to ask all of you, if you have any questions, please ask them. Go ahead. Yes, you always have a question. That's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Okay. I have a question on what is divine and what is divine life. Or what is life divine? I mean, I know there's a book written by Sri Aurobindo, but I want to hear it from you.
Yes, it's a massive book. Well, the divine life is the life that Sri Aurobindo sees for the earth one day, in which there is only harmony, love, goodness, oneness. And that's what we're all working for, although we don't realize it, we don't know it, but some of us know it, some of us feel it. To change this earthly life to life divine, he says in Savitri. Is there going to be a time when there are no more wars? Well, Mother says that there were 6 pralayas before the earth was formed. One of them, of course, was Atlantis. And they were far more technologically advanced than we are now. Another one was Lemuria. Another one was the Mayan civilization. The Mayans had airfields for supersonic flights for, we could even say, uh, interstellar flights. You can see pictures of them. They actually still are there. People, it's very, very high on a mountain and it's difficult to get to, but there are photographs of it. All of these civilizations went down. And why did they go down? Because either they got too deep into the occult and went to the dark side, or they did something to destroy the entire civilization. Mother said there would be no seventh pralaya. In other words, the earth cannot be destroyed by nuclear bombs or anything else. It will not be. We think that it's possible. Russia, China, US, India, they're trying to keep Iran from getting the nuclear bomb. There are not too many nations who have it. Israel has it. And there seems to be a sort of balance where these governments realize that if we do this thing and set it off, there'll be mass destruction. But there is something even greater than that, and that is the divine presence that is keeping everything under control. The divine presence will not allow this to happen. It's so powerful that Sri Aurobindo tells us in Book 11 that this is going to happen. The divine life is going to happen on earth, and that there are some who will be transitional beings. And I believe there are some even now on the earth. That some part of them, Mother called them the surams, the stages up to the supermind. We can see some things in these children who are so wise. Children who can play a piano at the age of 3. Children who can do mathematical equations that even the great mathematic geniuses cannot solve. Ramanujan was one of them. The Indian Ramanujan.
But
He is,
we talked about this in the Life Divine, where this is all like it's a mental sort of expansion of the abilities, but it's got nothing to do with the spiritual.
I don't agree with that.
Right?
I don't agree with that. I think there are young beings on Earth who are in that transitional period. And I have met some of them. I have met years ago now. I'm talking about young people years ago. Purani was one. Champathal was one. So it is one of the most powerful things you could imagine. Okay, here it is. It's a little lengthy, but it's so beautiful. This day is called the Immortality Day, and it takes place on the 26th of November. You're shaking your head. You know about it? You know about it?
Yeah, I heard Alokji talking about this immortality.
Yes, he did, right. But this is very beautiful because it's from a gentleman. Sri Aurobindo and the mother were living in the library house, the building to which the principal ashram gate directly leads. A day or two before November 26th, Champaklal arranged flowers on the floor of the mother's room in the form of the swastika. The swastika is the sign of immortality. The mother commented that it was remarkable that he should have chosen to make this particular sign on that particular day. Her words seemed to suggest an inner spiritual movement going on, significant of what the swastika represented. Then, on the 26th, in the passage room where soup used to be prepared, the mother stood before a basin of water and, holding her hands over it, appeared to pass into the water a spiritual consciousness and power descending into her. She declared that a most important and fundamental event had occurred, but that it was both very sacred and secret. She asked for some small glass bottles. She poured the occultly charged water into them and gave them to those who were there. According to her, the divine principle of immortality had been brought down on that day. Now, there is a full article, and I can read some more of it. I arrived, this is a person who has written, I arrived in the ashram on December 16, 1927. It was a little more than a year after November 24, 1926, the City Day, the Day of Victory, marking the descent of what Sri Aurobindo has called the overmind, the Krishna consciousness, the plane of the great gods, into the physical being of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. This victory was to prepare the descent of the supreme divine dynamism that has never directly worked in the world, and that Sri Aurobindo had termed the supermind, the spiritual power holding the secret of matter's total transformation. The first sadhak I met was Pujalal, who had come to the Pondicherry station to receive me and the girl I had married 2 months earlier, and who afterwards came to be known in the ashram as Lalita. We were taken to the room of Purani, through whom I had corresponded with Sri Aurobindo. Purani had not yet returned from the main ashram building, where he had gone for some daily work entrusted to him. He came soon after, and along with him and Pujalal, we watched from a north window the mother taking her morning walk on the flat roof of the house some distance away, in which she and Sri Aurobindo had their rooms. She had her long brown hair down, and in the morning light she looked a vision of wonderful beauty. Immediately she won our hearts and turned us into disciples. When she had finished her stroll, we sat for a while in Purani's room, before being taken to the house close to the main ashram block, which the mother had engaged for us. I noticed that a big white tomcat was sitting on Purani's bed. It was introduced to me as Amar, the name signifying immortal, an unusual name, but I never knew its relevance till November 25th, 1975, my 71st birthday. It would seem that this beautiful cat was born on November 26th, 1926, and got its name from the event that signalized that day, between which and the day of victory, my date of birth was sandwiched. I came to know also that Amar had been given to Champa, the resident wife of a visiting sadhak, Poonam Chand, with some definite purpose, and that later, when it died falling into a well, The mother, on learning the news, said, "Oh," an exclamation which meant as if the death had somehow been connected with her work, as well as with the person to whom the tomcat had been given. Immortality Day was an occasion mentioned to me by a few inmates of the ashram during the early months of my stay there, but it soon fell into oblivion. Just some weeks back, I referred to it in a letter to Udar, who had been here for the last 35 years or so. He did not know what I was talking about, and when I told him a few things I had heard, he was surprised that nobody had even hinted to him of them in the past. At the moment, perhaps, I must be one of the 2 or 3 who alone remember that great occasion led to the designation Immortality Day. On observing the almost universal ignorance about it, I made up my mind to have a talk with Champakla, who, according to my memory of the ashram's early days, had been a participant in the ceremony which had taken place on November 26, 49 years before. In the course of our conversation on various matters relating to his years with the mother, I asked him to tell me all he knew of the Immortality Day. When I said that hardly anybody recalled it, he replied, "How could people know of it when Datta and I were most probably the only persons on the occasion?" What I gathered from Champakla, in addition to what I have already said on Amar, is as follows. And then he speaks of Champakla arranging the swastika, and much of this is the same after that. But Mother declared that a most important and fundamental event had occurred, but it was that sacred that it was not. He says, how should we understand the message of that event? Just as November 24th promised with the descent of the delicate consciousness of the supermind, the advent of the true supramental divinity, November 26th confirmed to the very last particular of supramentalization what the early occasion had betokened in general. The very last particular is the divinization of the body. In Indian spirituality, from the beginning, immortality has stood for much more than personal survival of the physical death. It has stood for a realization of the divine consciousness, which is infinite and eternal, the supreme God self both within and beyond the changeless series of birth and death in which our common terrestrial existence is caught. Immortality in the integral yoga of Sri Aurobindo necessarily includes this experience. When the overmind came down into his body and the mother's, the highest range of past realization of the immortal being was compassed not only in the inner consciousness, but also in the outermost, with wonderful consequences in the material sheath itself, and an earnest of the full and final result, which would come by the arrival of the supramental truth. The total earnest of the godlike future was revealed on November 26th, a signal almost incredible to the human mind, haunted and obsessed by the millennia of mortality. That is why the mother considered the revelation not only sacred, but secret. And that is why the memory of it was allowed to hide in the background. There's a lot more from Sri Aurobindo and Mother, but it gives you an idea and answers your question very clearly that there will be the supramentalization of humanity. And it will not be an immediate event. It will be an event that has taken place over centuries. We have to realize that this event is going to happen to each of us because we were called here by the divine. Every one of us have been called. To answer that call, we have to follow the guidelines of the Integral Yoga. There is no specific path, and this is one of the uniquenesses of the Integral Yoga. Each one of us has our own path. There's no dogma. There's no ritual. There's no saying you have to do this puja, you have to do this obeisance, you have to do this thing. Nothing like that. You don't have to do anything except open to the divine consciousness. Bring the peace into your body first. Aspire with all your being to live in the light. Ask for the grace to come down, because if you do this, what could not be done in one lifetime could be done in one day by the Mother's grace. She can lift out of us all the darkness, all the obstinacy, all the intractability. That means not wanting to change. All of this can be done by one touch of the Mother upon us. When Nalini was leaving his body, he just said one thing: love the Mother. You can repeat her name during the day as often as possible. I've talked about this before. It's a wonderful way to open the psychic, because when you do that regularly and sufficiently and consciously, Mother forms a kind of envelope around you that's a protection. And you'll be protected from everything. I remember my Upaguru Aravinda Vasu telling me so many things, and Parichand also, who was the gardener of the ashram. Mother can do so many things, and now that she's in her universal body, it's very easy for her to do anything and for her to be in contact with each of you. How do we know that she is in contact with us? How can we be sure? Yes.
I would like to share something, what happened to me.
Please.
Last week, I went to Savitri Bhavan, and there's a room with many, many photos of the Mother. Beautiful exhibition. I don't know if you know this.
Yes, I do.
So the whole
room,
line,
and it sort of starts and goes around.
beautiful.
Yes.
So,
And you read each one.
sorry?
You read each description.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was sitting, I took a chair, and I was sitting in front of one of the photo, where she's looking directly into me. So that's what I felt. So I was sitting in front of her and watching her, and let her watch me for about 30 minutes, I would say. And then I asked her some questions. And one question is, I am staying in a very little bit difficult apartment with some problems, and I asked her if I should stay in this apartment, if it's good for me. And she said, yes, it's good for you and you can learn a lot in this apartment. So this was a good answer. So, but I went home to my apartment and I went into my kitchen, and this is an open kitchen, big kitchen, and I was standing in front of my where I cook, and suddenly the whole cupboard, which is big like this, came down. It was a full cupboard, big, with all my things inside, and in the big crash, it fell down, and it was maybe 5 centimeters beside me. It stopped. It could have killed me, really. It was a big, heavy thing. And I was in this little corner.
5 centimeters away.
I would say that. So it was there and lying on the floor. I was totally in shock. And then I was remembering that she said I should stay in this apartment. So I want to share this. This was a very special day for me.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Mother will speak to us. I was with the secretary in that very room, and she had asked me a question. What does Mother want from me? And I brought her the answer. And I'm sharing this with you because I think it's very important for Oroville. What Mother told me, I told the secretary. The Mother wants you to be her living example of divine love. A love which gives and asks for nothing in return. This lady went into the deepest meditation for 20 minutes, holding my hand. And then she looked up and she saw Mother in that back corner where Mother's full picture is. And she walked over there. And I think for 10 minutes, she just met Mother. This is the Secretary of Oroville. And she can do very, very much good for Oroville. But she needs people around her who can change the course if it's necessary, steer her in the right way. Not with negativity, but with love, with compassion, with devotion. And I think great things will happen. Right now, she has the government of Tamil Nadu and the government of India agreeing that all the land inside of Oroville should be purchased. The government will not purchase it, but they will put a fair price on it, and everyone has to sell. They will be rich people when they sell it, but they must sell. So she's done already that. The Crown Road is on the design of the original model that Roger brought to Mother in Rosewood, a huge model for the galaxy. And she says, why can't Oroville grow? Why does it have to stay at 2,800 people, which it is now? And we can understand why. There are probably 3 reasons, and I will share with you some of those that I feel are most relevant. The first one, and perhaps the most important, is that people are very happy with their house, their wife or companion, their dog, their good food, their health care and all their needs. All the facilities of Oroville are there for them. They have the cinema, they have restaurants, All these things they have. The second reason I feel is that there is in Orville, and I guess this is being recorded. Okay. Well, I'm taking a chance. So, in Orville, there are power struggles and people who want to hold on to their power. And we are not here for power. We are here for harmony and unity and true love. How are we going to achieve that? Well, this is one of the things that has to be worked out. This is the first secretary who has the power, interest, and dedication to see it done. And I see her very regularly. It's our time. If there are any final questions, I'll be happy to hear you.
Would you like to complete what you were saying about how do we know if we're connected to the mother? You were saying something.
It can come in two ways. It can come as a descent into the head. It can come as an opening from the heart, or the psychic being, we call it. When the psychic being begins to come out, there is a little pain. And Amal Kiran wrote to Mother, and he said, Mother, I have some pain from this psychic being. Mother said, yes, I know all about it, it will go. And it goes. It goes. For me, that was the easiest way, because I'm more of a bhakti than a jnana. And when Mother put this force into me and told me many things about myself, that has never left me. She has always been in me. I don't see her physically. I see her in dreams, yes, many times in dreams. And I think I've told you about some of my dreams. One of my dreams was a very extraordinary dream where Mother says to me, in a few days your head is going to fall off. Don't worry about it. Don't be concerned about it. And I go into a deep meditation and I hear the word, which I didn't know what it meant at that time, Muladhara. What is Muladhara?
Root chakra. Root chakra. Muladhara chakra.
Yes, the lowest chakra. What it meant, I don't know. But I was just quiet. I let it happen. I guess my head did fall off, but it seems to be attached. My mother used to say, your head would fall off if it wasn't glued to your shoulders. But that was my mother. She wasn't a yogi, but she had some very, very interesting wisdom. Because I couldn't remember something, she would say your head would fall off if it were not attached to your shoulders, glued to your shoulders. Anyway, thank you all for coming. It's so nice to have this wonderful group, 11, 12 people, and we'll meet again next week. You can bring questions if you want, but I do want to read a lot of Savitri to you. And next week I will read from Book 11, because that is the book where Sri Aurobindo tells us what is going to happen and how it can happen. That this can become a divine life. And it's so beautiful. Very often I would weep when I read these things, but Oh. You see, there's a part here. Well, I'll read to you just in the end thing. This is about Ashwapati, who is actually Sri Aurobindo. His body's cells awoke to spirit sense. Each nerve became a burning thread of joy. Tissue and flesh partook beatitude. A light, the dun, unplumbed, subconscious caves thrilled with the presence of her longed-for tread, and filled with flickering crests and praying tongues. Even lost in slumber, mute, inanimate, his very body answered to her power. The one he worshipped was within him now. She is within all of you. Never doubt that for a moment. We all may be in different stages of this path, but Mother is in each of you. And she will never leave you. You can be certain of that. She will never leave you. Namaste.
Namaste.